Ding dong.
Hello.
Hey guys. Oh.
Dad, I'm in the meeting, so can you?
Okay, come on.
Hello everybody.
Good morning.
Michigan. I'm in Michigan.
Hello.
Oh, Miles, that looks beautiful. Is that a lake behind you?
Yeah, it's one of the Great Lakes.
That's Lake Michigan behind you? Wow. Nice place.
Moms, can I see?
Guys.
Wow.
Meeting setting, raise hand and discuss.
Review?
Alina.
Let's switch to active speaker. So right here.
This is the lesson that I need.
Yeah.
Gavin, Axel, Ada. Good morning, everybody. Eleanor.
This for Zoom.
Yeah.
Please.
I wasn't able. I didn't hear about the Lichens lesson until the day after yesterday.
Okay.
The next day it was rainy, so I couldn't go outside.
Yes, yesterday was not such a good day to try to be outside looking for lichens. I agree with that. So that I completely understand.
Oh
And
my.
the good news is you'll probably have some opportunities this weekend to go exploring. So no worries at all. Let's see. I've got Sam and Rashawn. Good crowd. Okay, and Chris are here.
There's a lot of people here.
Yes, I do.
That's because it's not connected.
Guys, there's also a screen on that.
Okay.
Owen.
Please, that out.
Mm-hmm.
No, not the.
So I think we will
gotta
start
fit
with
it.
everybody muted. Good to see everybody this morning. And I either need to raise my chair or lower my chair. Okay. Oh, there's Nigel. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Hi, Nigel. So that we can look at the presentation together. And I'm getting the hang of this finally, you guys. Okay. So Miss Circe made this presentation, as I think I told you. And Miss Circe loves a good nature joke. So the presentation opens with a fungus and an algae met. They took a lichen to each other. Get the joke? If you read the presentation, you will get that joke because Sam gets the joke. Because what is a lichen? A lichen is not exactly a plant the way that we have described plants in the past, right? When we've learned about plants, ooh, Axel has a lake behind him that has risen 1 foot because of the rain. Ooh, yikes. Be careful, Axel. Okay, when we've talked about plants before, we have talked about a structure that has roots. Uh-oh. Roots and a stem and leaves, right? And who can tell me what happens in the leaf? I'm actually going to go back to the presentation here for a second. Alina, Can you unmute yourself and tell us about what happens in the leaf of the plant? A normal plant, like a tree or a fern or a philodendron. Alina, you're going to have to unmute yourself. I can't seem to do it.
It makes the food.
Alina, you look so different today. Okay, Miles is Alina. I bet that's what you were going to say, right? Yeah, okay. Miles is correct. Inside the leaf, food is made for the plant. And does anybody remember that super fancy scientific word for the process of food being made inside the leaf? Nora.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah, exactly. So photosynthesis. Photo meaning light. And where does that light come from?
The sun.
The sun. And then synthesis just kind of means putting it all together or making something. And so photosynthesis is making food from sunlight, and it happens in the leaf. So that's what happens in most plants.
It also uses water.
Yep, it uses water and then it uses carbon dioxide from the air.
And
Yep. Yes, Jack?
It uses the sun.
And the sun, exactly. Okay, so your understanding of photosynthesis is going to be important for us to share, to talk about lichens. Okay, let's get back to lichens. So lichens are not like plants exactly. They are organisms, so they are alive, and they are created from a symbiotic relationship. We talked about this before many times, but most recently when we talked about the Olmecs and the Mayas planting their crops so that they would help one another, okay? So symbiotic is when two organisms work together. So there's a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. So a lichen is created when you have a fungus to provide the structure. What's a good example of a fungus, by the way? Who can give me a good example of a fungus? You might have eaten a fungus recently. Ada.
Like if it's in the bottom of your water bottle.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Possible, but we hope not. Gavin, what's a good example of a fungus?
Can also,
oh, Alina.
It is a mushroom. Mushroom.
Yeah, Alina and Gavin
molds
at the same time.
and a mold.
Fungus in my backyard.
Mushrooms and molds.
Or moldy bread.
Yeah, so you've got lots of good examples, okay? Now let's talk about the example of that mushroom. That mushroom has a structure. Have you ever seen a mushroom growing outside? It sort of sticks up out of the ground, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And
I haven't seen it in our yard, but I've seen it in our grandma's yard.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen it in my yard.
even though the soil has
we do have mushrooms growing.
My yard.
So
Right, I've seen some at school too.
I've seen some growing too.
Okay, thanks, ladies. I'm gonna mute you now so I can continue on. When we see mushrooms growing, we see that they have a structure. There's a support system there. And when we touch them, they're sort of firm and solid feeling, okay? Algae is usually found near water, and the most common place you've seen algae is in that fish tank we have at school, right? That's the stuff that grows that makes the fish tank look yucky. And if you've helped to clean the fish tank, you know that algae does not have much of a structure at all. It's mostly kind of, the best word to describe it is goopy, right? It's very, if you try to touch it, it just sort of falls apart instantly. So what happens with lichen is you have a fungus providing the structure. And then you have an algae that can provide the photosynthesis. And the two working together is what makes a lichen. And sometimes there's more than one kind of algae, or there's something called a cyanobacteria involved. But the main idea I want you to walk away with is that lichen is formed when you have fungus providing the structure and algae doing the photosynthesis, providing the food. And those two working together is what makes a lichen. Let me just check. Nigel, I'll talk about the cardboard at the end, okay? All right, so here's some more information about lichens. They are extremely hardy, meaning they're tough. They do not, they can really handle a lot that can be thrown at them. So they can survive in rough conditions. Like you can find lichens in the desert where it's very hot and dry. You can also find lichens in the tundra where it is very cold and dry. They can grow on bare rocks where you wouldn't necessarily expect a plant to be able to survive. A lichen can grow. They can grow on fence posts. They can grow pretty much anywhere. Some of them are only really active or appear to be alive, appear to be performing the functions of a living thing for an hour or less during the day. And the rest of the time, they're sort of like in hibernation. So this means that for an hour or so, they're taking water from maybe the morning dew. And during that hour, they might be doing some photosynthesis and growing a little bit. And then the rest of the day, they kind of shut down and go dormant. So that's one of the reasons they can survive in some of these tough conditions is because they might only need an hour or so a day to do their eating and growing. And then they can sort of chill out. So how it works is the green algae and perhaps the cyanobacteria, if that's part of it, they work to provide the food for the fungus in the lichen. And the fungus, in turn, provides a home for the algae and bacteria. And the fungus also contributes some water and minerals and nutrients that the algae and bacteria might use. The fungus absorbs these extra nutrients from the air, or maybe it gets some from the rain or whatever substrate it's growing on. If it's growing on a log or a rock, it could maybe incorporate some of those nutrients from there as well. But without the algae, there couldn't be photosynthesis happening. So the continual food source is coming from the algae. So the fungus provides the structure, the algae provides the photosynthesis, the making of the food. Okay, so what's the point of lichens? Well, we could ask that about any organism in our entire world, right? What's the point? Lichen are important. They contribute to the biological diversity of the earth. They are very, very, very diverse. There are several thousand species of lichens just in North America. They provide food and shelter and nesting material for all kinds of wildlife. Some of the animals that use lichens for food or shelter or nesting material are birds, deer, elk, moose, mountain goats, hyena, mice, and bats. They also provide important food and habitat for invertebrates who either eat the lichen or live in the lichen or camouflage themselves in lichen. And they also, just like plants, when they break down, they provide important nutrients to the soil and keep the soil healthy. Yes, Danny?
I have some lichens growing on my tree.
Did you find some?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I found some too.
Yeah, do you know what I'd recommend? I would
Me
recommend
too. I found.
I'm so excited. How a bunch of you went out and found lichen.
I didn't go outside and find any, but I found
lichen.
the window and I saw
You just look out the window, you find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all over.
I found leafy and crusty. I didn't find any fruit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about those right away, Nora.
I found crusty on the trees.
I found crusty on the trees too.
I found a bunch of leafy and crusty, on rocks and stuff. And
I found leafy on the sidewalk. It fell from a tree, I think.
You found some on a sidewalk. Wow, that's not a place that you would normally expect plants to grow.
No,
huh?
I think it just fell from a tree because I don't think it was actually like growing there.
Oh, okay. It didn't seem to be attached.
Yeah, it didn't
so
seem to be attached.
That is one way you can tell that it's a lichen, is that it's very hard. If you tried to remove it from what it's growing on, it will not simply you can't just pick it up the way that you could a leaf or another kind of plant. Okay, it sounds like you guys found a lot of different kinds. So first we're going to talk about camouflage, and then we're going to talk about the different kinds of lichen. So we have some pictures here of moths hiding from predators by mimicking the patterns of these lichens around them. So in this top picture, and I don't know if you can see, can you see my arrow here?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. So in this top picture, we have a moth, and the lichen around the moth is sort of speckled. And so this moth is blending in and camouflaging itself. Why is camouflage important? Why does it want to blend in?
So that nothing will eat it?
so that nothing will think it's there and will pass without knowing it's there.
Exactly. It's hiding from predators, right? There's lots of animals that might think that moth is a tasty treat. And so it wants to, when it's just hanging out, it wants to hang out somewhere where it's not going to be spotted by an owl or a vole or something that's going to eat that.
The bottom right is very good at the hiding.
Yeah, so this is a kind of lichen that is very white and black. And so this moth has blended right in. Oh, sorry.
I can see the first two very perfectly.
Yeah.
I think the bottom left is very good at hiding because it's not exactly blending in. Like it's kind of blending in, but not really.
Jack, what did you want to say?
I think that the bottom one's the best at blending in.
How about you, Jack? What did you want to say?
I found a bunch of crusty in the woods. All over the trees. I found a bunch of fungus on the trees too. Like covered in fungus.
Wonderful. I'm so excited to hear about all of the exploration you guys have done. That is amazing. And how many different kinds you have all found. You have a lot of kinds growing around here.
Mine's covering like a whole tree.
Ooh, wow.
I have a question. Why does why does crusty show up more when it rains?
That's a great question. So that at the end of the presentation, we can talk about some ways that you might investigate a little further. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about another job that lichen can do. It can provide nesting material. Here's a bird's nest with lichen in it. Probably some of that leafy lichen, huh? This bird has gathered some of that lichen and woven it into her nest. Okay, here is is that a pica?
That's so cute.
And
It's very cute.
Yeah. Addie, I bet will tell me if that's not a pica. She knows her small furry creatures very well.
I'm pretty sure it's a pica.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Addie. I was 95% sure, but I thought if Addie knows, then I will be 100%. And so it's using this lichen-covered rock as a little bit of a shelter or a hiding place. And then these moose are probably, that's an elk, are also perhaps finding a food source in that lichen.
I can't hear you.
Can everybody else hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Danny, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
There's a noise.
But that sound is kind of like.
Yeah, there's a whooshing sound. I don't know where that's coming from. Let me go ahead and mute everyone again.
Those like in those real fast dash.
Okay. Keep in mind, if you are doing something extra with your computer, we can hear that. So just keep that in mind. Okay. People also benefit from lichens. It is used in dyes, dyeing fabric. Adam, I'm going to need you to stay on mute, please. It can dye fabric, clothing, and baskets. It can be used in medicines. You might want to do some investigation on the antibiotic properties of lichens. Antibiotics, as we know, are important medicines that can be used to kill bacteria. And if you have a bacterial infection like strep throat, you need an antibiotic. If you have an ear infection, you might need an antibiotic. Oh, Jack's got some great examples right there. He brought some in. Jack, can we look at those again at the end of the presentation?
Okay.
Thank you. So lichen have certain, okay, someone is now humming. I'm going to mute everyone again. Thank you. Lichens have antibiotic properties that can be used in medicines that people use. It can also be used in deodorants, toothpaste, salves. Salves are like ointments that you might put on your skin if you've got a skin problem, and perfume are all types of products that could use lichens in them. Here's where I think lichens provide a really important service. They are ecological indicators. Indicators are something that show you something. So when I point, I'm indicating with my finger, okay? So when we look for an ecological indicator, we're looking for a sign, a signal somewhere in the environment that tells us something is happening. So lichens are ecological indicators because they can tell us about air quality. Some lichens are very sensitive to pollution. And when you see a certain type of lichen start to decline, start to disappear, that might be telling you that there's a problem in the atmosphere. There's a pollution problem in that area, and that the lichens are not able to grow there. So the decline of a certain type of lichen can indicate a problem in the environment. Some lichen species experience structural changes. That means their shape changes. And that can also be an indicator of a type of pollution that maybe is causing them to not be able to photosynthesize correctly. Scientists watch the lichen populations and the diversity. How many different kinds of lichen are there? And that tells them a lot about the health of that ecosystem. So that is one of the most important jobs that lichen do in the environment. Okay, and now we're going to talk about the parts of lichen. And we have right here we have what's called a cross section. That means if I have a piece of lichen, I'm going to cut it like this down the middle so that I can open it up and look at the insides. So this is a picture of what it might look like if you were to take a piece of lichen, doesn't say exactly what kind of lichen here, and open it up and look at the layers on the inside, okay? And so what you would see, first of all, the entire structure is called a thallus. It's kind of the body of the lichen. The top layer is a tightly packed layer of fungus called the cortex. So again, that layer of fungus is providing the structure of the lichen. Then below that, you have the layer of algae doing the photosynthesis. The medulla is a layer made of loosely woven fungal hyphae, so branching bodies, the little fibers that kind of fill out the body of the lichen. And then below that, you have the lower cortex. So the cortex layers are kind of like the skin. They kind of hold it all together. And that bottom layer, that bottom lower cortex, has densely packed fibers again that are almost act like roots. And they attach and anchor the lichens onto the surface where it grows, and they attach really firmly. Jack, in order to get your sample, you had to take the bark with you. You couldn't just remove that lichen from that bark. It's holding on very tightly. Okay, lichens are colonizers. Christian Kea, they are, they might feel dry to the touch, especially, Jack, can you hold up that sample again, please? Okay, if you're looking at Jack's sample right now, Jack, can you tell me, and I'm not able to unmute you, can you tell me, does it feel dry to the touch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But I don't know if we'd call it a dry structure exactly, because it's definitely using water to photosynthesize. So it has water inside the lichen, but the outside of the lichen feels dry. And Addie, did you notice, because I know you found several examples, did you touch them to see if they were wet or dry on the outside?
They were dry on most of them.
Okay. And then Nora, how about you? When you found a bunch of samples, did you touch them? Did they feel dry on the outside?
One of them felt dry, but the other one was wet just because it had just been raining. So.
Okay.
But I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if I were to touch it when it was dry, it would feel dry.
Okay.
The ones on the trees were also dry.
Awesome. Thank you. So Kea and Krish, I think that like a leaf on a plant, the outside feels dry to the touch, but inside, if you broke it open, you would find that it's moist inside because it needs that water to create food for the structure of the plant. Okay. So lichens can go where others can't. We normally do not see plants growing out of a rock or a fence post or a roof of a building. But lichens can grow in those places because they don't need much water to take root and start growing. And once lichens head in, they start to grow, and that creates the conditions that make it possible for mosses to come in and start growing. And mosses are little plants. And so that would be the next thing that would probably start growing after some lichens. So what I mean by colonizer, Ava, thank you for that great question. What I mean by that is someone who creates a colony, that means they're the first to go live there. So the other time that we often talk about colonies is when we're talking about those Europeans who came and set up on the east coast of the United States, and they were the first Europeans to come and live here. They were the colonizers of what would eventually become the United States of America. Now we know, of course, they were not the very first people here, but they were the first Europeans to come over, and they set up their colonies. Lichens behave like those colonists. When they go to a fence post or the roof of a building and they set up there, they are the first plant-like material to start growing in that spot. But once they set up and start growing, then other plants can follow them and join up and grow there. And for that reason, because scientists observe that happening over and over, that first, let's say you've got a bare rock, and first come the lichens to grow on that rock, and then after a while we see moss starts to grow there. So because scientists observed that for a long time, they believed that lichens were among the first plants to ever grow anywhere. But lately, they've realized that that's actually not true, that lichens may have arrived on Earth about 100 million years after some other plants like ferns. They were probably the first ones. So that's a great example of how science is always changing. Lichens are found everywhere. There are more than 13,500 species of lichen, and they, if you measured all of the earth where lichen appears, it would account for 7% of the earth's surface, which you guys kind of realized when you went out looking for lichen that you found them pretty easily, didn't you? Lichens are diverse. That means there's lots of different kinds. So the three major types of lichens are the crusty lichens, the crustose, the leafy lichens, the foliose, and the shrubby lichens, the fruticose. So Faith, I'm glad you're finding this interesting. Thank you for letting me know. The crustose lichens, the crusty ones, they are forming over rocks and soil and roofs. And Jack, I'm pretty sure your sample there is a crusty lichen. Would you agree with me? Yes? Okay, great. Thank you. They can be grayish green, but they can also be yellow or red, and they form rough patches on surfaces. And sometimes when I see those crusty lichens, they look almost like chewing gum that has been stuck to the rock or the bark of a tree. Then we have the foliose lichens, from the Latin folium, meaning leaf. And they're really easy to see. They look like a teeny tiny leaf that is really stuck to the bark of the tree. Usually you see those on bark. And you can see that they have a top side and a bottom side. And if you have the ability, if you have a tool with you, like a small knife or blade or something that you can kind of lift up the side of that leaf, you'd be able to see. Usually they have a lighter color on top and a darker color on the bottom. They definitely look like tiny little leaves, but flat against the surface of the thing that they're growing on. And then finally, there are the fruticose lichens, from the Latin frutex or frutic, meaning bush or shrub. These are the shrubby lichens, and they can grow in all kinds of different shapes. They can look like a little cup or a bowl. They can grow in a structure that's going straight up, or they can actually fall down like a pendant. And so here we have some pictures of those shrubby, or actually this is all three kinds of lichens. So the crusty lichen here, the leafy lichen here, you can see how this actually forms leaf shapes. And then here we have the shrubby lichens. And it sounds like you guys some of you found all three kinds. Okay, well, scientists are still learning more about lichens. In fact, remember how I said lichens are always the fungus working with the algae, but sometimes there's that cyanobacteria? Very recently, they figured out that sometimes it's two kinds of algae working together with the lichen, with the fungus. So that was a pretty recent discovery in just the last few years. I wonder if some of you might become interested in this enough to discover even more new facts about lichens. We're always learning about them. So here are some, now I don't know if these links actually work. When I clicked on them, they didn't take me there.
They don't work.
They don't work? Okay. So what you can do is you can just type this into your Google bar, and it'll take you to, or if you just go to the Field Museum website and look for the field guides. The trouble is there's a lot of information there. So when you go to the Field Museum field guides, you have to search for lichens, and then you find, remember how we said there were 13,500 kinds of lichens? You will find page after page after page about lichens. So it's a lot of information. You can also go to I might suggest starting at the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. That'll narrow it down at least to the lichens found in Illinois. That might be a better place for you to start. But you can also go to sites like National Geographic. But please also remember, your libraries have books available that you can download using your library card, so they are free. So I would start there always, looking for your library to see what you can get from them. That would be the best place to start. And with any luck, in another couple of weeks, maybe the libraries can start to open a little bit. Okay, I am ready for your questions. Let me stop my screen share so I can see everybody.
Can't you buy books online from libraries?
You can, if you purchase a book from, say, Amazon, then you are paying for the book and you own the book forever, which is sometimes nice, but not always. When you don't want to have to buy every book that you're using for your research, because you're going to research it for a while. You're going to learn everything there is to learn from that book, and then you're going to want to give it back. So I suggest you'll need mom and dad's help for this. Go to your library's website and follow the instructions there to, usually there's an app you have to download. And then you can see what books are available that you can just borrow with your library card. And the books from the library are free. As long as you return them on time, they are free. So the library is a great resource. It means you can read the books for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you can return them and not have to pay for them. So that's always the best place to start. Yes, Rashan.
What's the difference in moss and a lichen?
That is a fantastic question that I'm not going to answer because I want you to find out. Okay? That is a great example. I was hoping you were going to ask that. I hope you will go on to either one of those websites that we just mentioned that's on the presentation, or go to your library and see if you can find a book about moss or lichen and find that answer out and write it up for me and send it to me, because I'm going to let you research that. That's a great question. Yes, Danny.
So just where do the leafy kind of lichen and shrubby kind, do you know where all of them like most prefer to grow?
Yeah, I think all of them can grow just about anywhere. But when I see the leafy lichen, that's usually on the bark of a tree, in my experience. And the crusty lichen I see on trees and on rocks. And I don't know that I've noticed a ton of that shrubby lichen, but Addie, you said you found some shrubby lichen, didn't you?
Or 2 areas of it.
And where did you find it?
It was sort of at the base of trees sometimes.
Ah, okay. Okay, so you're gonna have to just keep your eyes peeled, guys. But anywhere there's a tree or a rock or a even a fence post, you could look on the roof of a building. I see it there a lot too. If you've ever seen somebody's roof tiles that are supposed to be black, but there's spots that look green and yellow speckled, that's probably lichen.
I'm going to have that.
Miles. Miles, what did you want to say? Miles, did you have a question? Nope, okay. Alrighty, just checking to see if there are any other questions out there. Faith, did you have a question? Okay. Well, guys, this was a lot of fun. I hope that when you find your lichen outside, that you will take a minute to draw what you have found. Now, Jack, where'd you go? Oh, he disappeared on me. You might be able to take a sample if it has already become detached. But I don't want you to damage a tree in order to get a sample of lichen to bring inside. So take your paper and pencils outside and draw what you see. And then identify it. Is it shrubby? Is it crusty? Is it leafy? Where did you find it? What was it growing on? Those are the sorts of things you'll want to record. And then go ahead and take a picture of that and send it to me because I would love to see that. Okay, Nigel, thank you for the reminder. Nigel was asking about the cardboard contest. I will be accepting your photos. I got some doozies in the last 24 hours. You guys, this is going to be a lot of fun to look at all of these submissions.
This is for two.
But it's not too late. If you want to create something for the cardboard contest, you can still do that today. And I can accept those pictures. You have to send me a picture or a video. And you can send them to me all the way through tonight, bedtime tonight. Okay, and I'll make sure Gavin gets them, and then next week we'll talk about judging. Yes, Sam.
Is there going to be another cardboard contest?
No, this is the one. This is the one, and today is the deadline. But you've got all day. Yes, Danny.
I don't know. I finished mine like a couple days ago, and I sent the video, but
Yes,
I don't
I got
know
that.
the picture.
Yep,
Okay.
I got that. If you already sent it to me, then I've got it. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Oh, Miles says, "What is the cardboard?" Miles, are you getting my email? I'm gonna let you go, Miles. If you want to hang on, I could talk to you a little bit more about it. I'll see you guys at Read Aloud, and don't forget 2 o'clock. It's Friday, so we'll have art at 2 o'clock. I've got plans.
Last time I couldn't
Later.
go to art, and I don't know how to. I couldn't get to art last time.
The link is in Google Classroom under the Zoom link, I think.
It isn't. It wasn't there last.
I will double check.
It's
I will
under
make sure
art
it's
and
there.
music.
Okay, it's under art and music. Okay, so look under art and music. Okay, guys, I'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye,
everybody.
Mr. Tim,
Bye. Bye, bye,
Yes, Nigel.
bye.
do we have to send a video of our project?
No, it was if some people wanted to make a video, but it was not requested. Your
Okay.
picture was just perfect, and I already sent it on to Gavin.
Okay.
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 All right, gentlemen.
Bye.
So I'll see you guys at Read Aloud. Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye, guys.